I'm Courtney,
I'm Bob.
I'm Cira.
and we're happy to be here. Talking about one of our favorite topics, mine personally, semaglutide, and we have a wealth of knowledge sitting here. So sit down, buckle up, because this is going to be really great. Please excuse Kira and I are going to do a little back and forth with this microphone. I'm just going to be the in between for her and Bob, and chime in when I need to. But semaglutide is one of my favorite topics because through Smiley Aesthetics, I have been able to take it and I've lost 40 pounds. So and I feel amazing. So that's amazing. The legal side's amazing. The business side's amazing. And we are going to dig in today. So if you watched our episode, I think it was 2 weeks ago. Bob's on it, and Bob did his little introduction. So just to recap really quickly, Bob is an attorney out of Knoxville, Tennessee. He helps a lot of med spas. He has years of entrepreneur practice as an entrepreneur himself, and now as an attorney who specializes in helping entrepreneurs, and then even more specialized in helping medical aesthetic entrepreneurs. So he has just a lot of knowledge when it comes to the business aspect of it and being compliant. And then we have one of our lovely members of the Smiley Aesthetics team, and I will let Kira do an introduction of herself and take the microphone.
Hi, so my name is Cira Monnig. I am a nurse practitioner. I've been a nurse practitioner for going on 9 years. My background is I've done family practice for, a total of five to 6 years, and I did pulmonary and urgent care as well, pulmonary for 4 years. Decided to get into aesthetics and have absolutely just fallen in love with it. In my journey getting into aesthetics, I started looking into semaglutide and became very intrigued, especially while everyone was, it was kind of getting to be known really in the beginning. I personally have never been a fan of weight loss medications. So in all of my years of family practice, I would never actually prescribe weight loss because I felt like it needed to be lifestyle changes, and you don't need to just put a Band-Aid on things. You have to get down to the nitty-gritty of it. Semaglutide was very different for me. I feel like it actually does get down to the core root of a lot of chronic disease processes that we're seeing. So I think in general, it could really reduce overall chronic disease, medications that people are on, and just provide overall better health.
Sure. And so just kind of the structure so we can work, Kira and I can work as best as we can with this microphone back and forth. I think we should talk about and take these kind of topics of what is semaglutide, and Kira can elaborate a little bit more kind of surface level on what it provides as a GLP-1 drug, and why are we able to produce semaglutide like we are now, and then kind of what we think the future of the semaglutide is looking like from a legal aspect, from a clinician's aspect. So Kira, tell us a little bit about what you just said about how semaglutide is not a weight loss drug. To talk about, as someone who is knowledgeable in this area, what does semaglutide, how is it different than what we've had in the past?
So semaglutide, the way that it works in the body is it actually increases the insulin secretion and sensitivity, which is huge because so many people in our society are becoming insulin resistant. That can be due to all the additives in our foods, excess calories. I mean, as Americans, we tend to eat horribly. And so as a result of that becomes, we get insulin resistant. It actually is increasing that insulin sensitivity and insulin secretion so that it can actually bind to the glucose and transport that glucose into the cell where our bodies can actually use that to burn fat, which is amazing because when our bodies work like they should work, that's what we should do. We should have a normal metabolism that's burning fat, not storing fat appropriately, of course. And then, so that's huge in the sense that when we look at our general health in today's society, we see a lot of obesity, hypertension, hyperlipidemia, and diabetes. they've now taken those 4 disease processes and named it metabolic syndrome. So I'm glad we've given them all another name, but let's treat them at the root cause, not just throw medications at each individual disease process. A lot of the other weight loss medications, you're suppressing the appetite, but you're still not treating that insulin resistance. And ultimately, that's the root problem. So that's why, to me, this is very different. It's a game changer. And if people take it serious and make those lifestyle changes, they can take this medication to kind of get to where they want to be and be able to maintain life on healthy lifestyles.
Yeah, absolutely. So Bob, tell us a little bit about how we are able to produce semaglutide at this point. So semaglutide is not the FDA approved Ozempic. It is not the FDA approved Mounjaro.
Yeah, well, actually, I have a question. So, I see it used.
I ask the questions here.
I see it used kind of interchangeably, So there's the compounded semaglutide, which I think is really what we're talking about. But Wegovy and Rebellum are also semaglutide, right? They're just not compounded.
Wegovy and Ozempic.
Yeah, Ozempic.
Yes. Yes, those two are. I mean, essentially, when you have a medication that is generic, per se, I mean, you come out with a generic name. Semaglutide is that. They just haven't, the pharmaceutical companies have not put out a generic. They've not offered a generic, so you can't legally say that it's generic.
Yeah, and so, and for just for everyone listening, a compounded drug is never FDA approved. So the FDA approval process is really difficult. And I might mix the two of these up, but between Ozempic and Mounjaro, one of them is, I think it's Ozempic, is FDA approved for diabetes, and the other and Wegovy is FDA approved for weight management.
Correct.
And in a really important factor, they are individually FDA approved for those reasons. Not both of them approved for both. And semaglutide is not FDA approved for anything because it's a compounded drug. And Cira said that we do not have a generic. So like in the world of Tylenol, acetaminophen is the generic version of it. We do not have a generic version of this drug, and that's because the patent is still out on all of these FDA approved. And I don't know the exact date off the top of my head, but it's something like 2031, I think, is when the patent expires on Ozempic. So in a traditional world, a traditional legal world, those companies who have poured the money into medical research, they've poured the money into the FDA process, we've created a system that we protect them so they can make their money back, and we encourage development of research and medical research. We protect them for a certain amount of time before anyone is allowed to make a generic version, so they can recoup their investment. And again, don't quote me, but I think it's 2031 for them. So in case you don't know, it is not 2031. So how are we here today?
Well, there's a shortage. So the drug companies aren't able to produce enough for the demand, and because there is an opportunity, and physicians are saying it's medically necessary, the FDA is allowing compounded drugs, which means they're generally made in a pharmacy, and so they don't have the same level of regulation over the specifics of making that drug. So that's kind of also where some of the issues lie too for some folks.
And to add to that, though, it doesn't have the same regulation, but it is still regulated.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there still are regulating bodies that. So there is oversight, because I think you do have some compounding pharmacies that don't follow, maintain or whatnot.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So the FDA creates a shortage list. This drug now is on the shortage list. There's no guarantee for how long it will be on the shortage list, which means certain compounding pharmacies are eligible to create this under very, very strict rules. Because, again, it's not an FDA approved. Semaglutide is the compounded version of an FDA approved drug with semaglutide, as it's compounded, compounded drugs don't go through that same approval process, but it's kind of a circular argument because the FDA highly regulates the compounding of drugs. So if a drug's on the shortage list, then they are able to compound it, but the rules that those pharmacies have to follow are very, very strict. And if they do not follow them, then they lose their ability and their license to compound that drug.
I think ideally, I think one of the issues.
Ideally.
I read an article where I guess Alibaba was selling semaglutide that was produced in China.
Yes.
So that's an example of, I don't think there's probably the same level of regulation there, and it is that type of behavior that has led to some of certain states being more restrictive in terms of either compounding semaglutide or giving semaglutide injections.
So, Bob, I'll add to that too, because I just had a friend send me this Facebook ad of this. I think it was actually tirzepatide, which is equivalent to Mounjaro, right? So, sent that, and I followed the link because I was curious, like, how are they getting this so cheap?
Yeah.
And don't have to be a prescriber. You can be the average person, and place your order. It did have some Chinese letters around it. And so I thought, oh my goodness. But that is the perfect example. Had she not sent that to me and I was able to say, absolutely don't do that, that is not good. And people don't know. Yeah. And that's kind of the one thing that I will be proud to say, part of Smiley, that, we are offering the compounded medications that are being monitored and are maintaining that quality and guaranteed. So
yeah, and I think a lot of people, I mean, me included, I would assume, okay, if I'm on the internet and there's a drug that is advertised, I would just naturally assume, well, it's got to be governed. I mean, there's no way people are out here just selling things from China, but that's just not the case in particularly in this semaglutide, because it's such an important drug and so many people are interested in it.
And people will learn. I mean, it'll be unfortunate when people start glowing next year because they've injected who knows what in them. Not if you're a member, have a membership at Smiley Aesthetics for our weight loss management program, you will not. But if you are buying it with Chinese letters and you start having a glow to you next year, then we'll learn on the back end.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that's led certain states. So Louisiana is very restrictive in terms of compounding semaglutide. They prohibited it, or at least provided guidance from the Board of Pharmacology, advising that pharmacies should not compound it, that they believe that there are certain salts that are used in the compounding, and I think what I've read is those aren't necessarily those pharmacies that are doing it reputably. It's more of those bad actors. But because there are those bad actors, I think they're trying to reduce the use. And I think, obviously legally there are some potential issues in terms of providing care to patients and versus the availability of the drug. So, and then, I know that Mississippi and North Carolina have provided guidance from various governing boards that make either the compounding or injection of semaglutide prohibited from a guidance standpoint. It's not necessarily illegal. There's not statutory penalties. This is still not a controlled substance. But for the professionals in the medical world that are involved in the production and injection or prescription of semaglutide, there's some restrictions in certain states.
So I have to ask, is there a rationale with Mississippi on why they're not allowing the injections?
So they've cited some studies and just sort of a belief that there are salts that are being used in the compounding.
Okay.
And if you kind of trace that back, and what I've seen also cited by Louisiana, like there's, I guess, it appears that a lot of it is that Chinese produced compounded drug that aren't necessarily being properly regulated and probably shouldn't be sold anyway, or shouldn't be sold.
Right.
Yes, they should not be sold. And so I think it's those sort of bad actors, and my guess is there's probably some bad actors that are stateside as well that aren't being as compliant as they could be to the regulation. And so I think that's the fear. It's not totally clear in terms of in either of those why they're taking such strong measures in comparison with other states, though.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we've touched on this so many times. If you listen to our podcast, or if you are subscribed to our Patreon, or if you follow any of us on social media, a consistent message throughout all of our content is this world is changing, and it is our job as a company to, it is our number one job to stay really knowledgeable about the changing landscape of it. And then one of the things that it's not our job, but that we really enjoy doing, is having conversations like this to then pass that information along. So, because when we all rise to a level of compliance, or when we rise and we share this along, we all rise to a level of compliance and really increase just the level of care of the industry as a whole. And so keeping up to date on what is going on in Mississippi, what's going on in Louisiana, even though we don't, as a company, we don't have a presence there yet, it's still important because those things could come down in states that we are present or patients that we do serve. And one of the things that we did not talk about earlier, but is really important, is there is an ongoing lawsuit with companies filed by the FDA-approved versions of that. And I think it's really important to point out lawsuits are really difficult to read and sometimes a lot of very cumbersome. But as a business, if you're offering semaglutide, some of the things that you cannot say is it is not the FDA-approved weight loss drug. It is not just like Ozempic and just like Wegovy and Majora. Yeah, like it is just not. You can't use those, and that is back to what we were saying earlier. Is you we have these protections in the legal world for people who go through the entire medical research process to develop a drug, then go through the FDA process. They can use those that language, and so that's what the lawsuit's about. Is people who are riding on the coattails of these big companies who've paid for all of this. So if you are a business and you offer semaglutide and weight loss programs, you need to go through your website, go through your marketing material, and make sure that you don't have a reference to any of the other drugs and say just like, or that you do offer those drugs, because you don't. And your drug that you're offering is not FDA approved. That's how those companies got in to a lot of trouble. And Tennessee is a company in Tennessee was one that was included in the lawsuit. Cira, I want you to talk a little bit, if you can, about how the program here at Smiley Aesthetics is that we pride ourselves in that it's different because you really put a lot of emphasis on that it is this entire lifestyle change, that we are not just it's almost Halloween, that we're not just passing out semaglutide to trick-or-treaters. Like, it is an entire program, and we really focus on the entire patient. So talk to us about, because Cira is, the brains of our semaglutide and our weight loss program. So walk us through kind of how, as a patient, you get a different experience here.
Yeah. Courtney, you say passing out semaglutide, and we kind of laugh, but honestly, I think there's a lot of people that are truly doing that.
I actually read an article where they're saying that the Upper East Side neighborhood of Manhattan, which is one of the healthiest neighborhoods in the country, has a really high level usage of semaglutide. And I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are on that too, because
that's interesting.
I don't have any of the medical background, but I just was like, oh, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, that is interesting. But again, I think it goes back to say that our country as a whole, when you look at our foods and the ingredients in our foods, even if you're shopping on the aisle that has very healthy foods, they still are loaded with all these additives that maybe aren't even listed on the box, or whatever it is. You know what I mean? So I think that it just speaks to our diet in this country as a whole. And it's not always personal choices. It's what's in our foods. So I do think that that's a lot of it as well. But going back to Smiley, our program, and this is one thing that I am very proud of and I feel very passionate about, because as I mentioned before, I never liked weight loss medications. But with this, it is different. But you also have to do the lifestyle changes. So as we put together this program with Smiley Aesthetics, that's one thing that we really emphasize. We talk about how many calories should you be having per day? How many carbs should you be having per day? Should you get, how much protein are we getting in? So we do the initial consultation and we provide all of that education, followed up with referring our patient to our landing page that also reiterates everything that we have said about diet and exercise and expectations, that if you are part of the Smiley program, you should also be following these lifestyle changes. It should not just be a drug. We're trying to reduce medications, not add. We're not at this, we're not giving it to you so you can just take another medication on the list. So I do think it's important that anytime you're offering a medication, especially with weight loss, that you're talking about lifestyle changes. Every month we follow up with these patients, and a nurse sees them or an advanced practice nurse. Every month we're discussing, how's your diet going? What are you eating? How much water are you getting in? If they're not losing weight, we're digging in as to why. Why are you not losing appropriately? Maybe they're losing too much weight, because they're not getting enough calories in. We don't want that either. There's been a lot of social media hype about muscle wasting associated with this medication. And I'm not going to lie, it drives me a little crazy, because it is not associated with the medication, or it's not directly a result of the medication. Instead, it's because people aren't eating.
Yes.
So they think they can take this medication and not eat, and then they drop all this weight. That's when the muscle wasting occurs, because you are burning through muscle instead of fat. And I'll tell the patients, the minute you come off of semaglutide in that situation, you're going to gain every bit of it back plus more. So I think it's so important that we just reiterate the lifestyle changes with it. And that's what we really push with Smiley Aesthetics with our program.
Yeah, and you say it on the front end, and then like you said, we follow up and we keep a track on it. We have things like talk about, and tell me the significance of why do we require patients to have blood work? And
yeah, I wanted to talk about that as well. We do check blood work before, mainly to get a baseline, and you want to rule out, do they have any underlying thyroid disease that maybe has been undiagnosed, or diabetes that has been undiagnosed. We certainly don't want to give a medication that was initially prescribed for diabetes if they are an undiagnosed diabetic and we don't know about it. Or if, say, they have hypothyroid and maybe that's why they're not losing weight. We're going to treat the wrong problem.
Sure.
So I think it's important to always identify, rule out any major issues such as those things, as well as looking at kidney function, liver function. There can be a rare complication of this medication of pancreatitis. So we check the pancreatic enzymes at baseline and then 3 months later to make sure that they don't have any underlying pancreatic issues that maybe they're not aware of, as well as when you recheck it in 3 months, if the semaglutide is affecting their pancreas, it's going to be a red flag there. So that's why we do check lab work, which you should. Again, there's a lot of people. It is medicine.
Yeah.
We're not just, it's not
Skittles.
It's
not
medicine. I was going to say it's not candy.
Yeah.
It's medicine. We should be following up on these things. So.
I think, and we've talked about this so many times, Cira, and I know that, Bob, you have shared this with your clients too. And, we've got these well-lit rooms. We've got these comfy chairs. People are diffusing essential oils. We've got this music playing. It is still the practice of medicine. And we still have to be doing what we need to be doing as a medical professional. And you mentioned that before we sat down. Part of, a job as an attorney is you have to, when you look at statutes and you look at regulations, you have to understand how all these bodies of law work together, and how you can't just read a statute in isolation. And on Carla and I's episode a few weeks back, we really talked about how that more in depth, and how you have to read a statute and then look at the Board of Medicine's guidance for it, look at the Board of Nursing, look at sometimes the Board of Pharmacy, and then piece it together like a puzzle and see what the full picture related to one question is. And you have to do that over and over and over again. The same is true for the practice of medicine, as what you were saying, in that you have to look at the whole patient. You can't just say, well, you want to lose some weight, here's some semaglutide, take it, let me know when you need more.
Right.
Have a good time. It's like, that's not addressing the whole patient. That's not serving patients in the best way we can. Well, so you both talked to me about, what do you think, as we close out, what do you think is the future of semaglutide, both from the legal component? I know that we've talked a lot about Mississippi and Louisiana, and then Cira, I want to hear your thoughts on what is the future of semaglutide. What are we going to discover about it? I've recently read some articles about semaglutide and addiction being used as it's been so effective in weight loss, but what do you think is coming? If you had a crystal ball, what do you think is coming down for the future of semaglutide? So whoever wants to take their crystal ball first.
I'll let you finish. I'll add that. So I think, for Smiley and other medical aesthetic companies, I think that it's probably important that there is additional regulation. I think, right now, personally, maybe Mississippi, Louisiana have taken it a little bit too far, but that regulation is there to help the good actors. So I imagine that there'll be additional regulation in other states. And so, I think that for those that are in the practice, just making sure that you're using reputable pharmacies, and you understand where the semaglutide's coming from. I also know there are additional, Lilly has a weight loss drug that is close to approval, as I understand it. I think that this area is just going to expand, and there may be more name brand drugs, alternatives, which could impact pricing and so on to make it more affordable for folks.
Okay, Cira, what's your crystal ball?
Oh gosh, I was lighting up even hearing the question because I get so excited about it. I think that, as we move forward, there are studies showing how it treats addiction in that part of the brain, which is really cool because clinically, I see so many times patients come back and say, yeah, just alcohol doesn't taste very good. You're seeing that reduction in alcohol, which is amazing for so many reasons. And so I love that. Also, they're starting to come out with some studies indicating or showing the reduction in heart disease. So, heart disease, diabetes, those are all massive, massive problems in our country. And I think that as we move forward by utilizing this medication, we're going to see a reduction in obesity, which then reduces cholesterol, reduces hypertension, reduces the risk for diabetes. And it just goes on. So then, you're seeing a reduction in maybe hospitalizations, reduction in medications. So then overall healthcare costs. It's a domino effect. And so when I say getting to the root problem, I feel like this is the first time since I've been in medicine in the last 20 years that we truly are getting to the root problem, to where over the next, maybe even couple of decades, we're going to start seeing the domino effect of improvement in our overall healthcare system, which is a huge problem.
Yeah,
So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the most exciting things about being involved in the world of medical aesthetics is we are able, our tagline is own your beauty from the inside out. And so we so often are able to help people with insecurities that they have on the outside. Maybe they've got one side that needs a little bit more treatment than the other, or they have acne scarring, or all these things that make them feel insecure. But I also get really excited because I feel like this program that we have really embodies that whole process of owning your beauty from the inside out and treating those underlying causes and causing a real transformation in patients. So We hope that you've enjoyed this as you look to maybe add it to your practice, or you look to talk to your patients about it. We think it's a really beneficial drug and a really awesome opportunity for your business. For more information, you can always find us at Patreon at Smiley Aesthetics, and me, Mary, and Carla are on Instagram. We've got our Smiley Aesthetics Instagram. See Smiley Injector Smiley, and I'm Court Approved Aesthetics. And, we are committed to raising the standard of the industry, becoming knowledgeable, having these sit-down conversations where attorneys and medical professionals and business leaders all get together and decide what is the best way to move forward. And then we're also committed to sharing it with you all. So thanks for joining in today, and thanks for Bob and Cira for sitting down with us.